No black cats, just straight facts.
Triple P certified.
Listen, we can talk about odds all day. It doesn't matter what the odds are. It matters what's gonna happen.
Welcome to Parlay Pursuit. We're back again following Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot's main event last weekend. A wild and crazy night all across the space from what I'm seeing. A lot of ice road trucking getting through that card. A lot of chaos, but we made it through. Came out a little bit ahead on profits. We'll talk about that. Not going to be able to recap too much because we have a giant guest coming in. Head coach of Fight Ready MMA. We got Santino Defranco. Big name in the sports betting universe. He's got a podcast himself. He's all over everybody else's podcast. He's always giving his picks. So we're going to have him on in just a few minutes. But we wanted to get through those intro musics, get through our little hellos, and then we'll take you into the main card breakdown for Israel Adesanya versus the man of steel from heavyweight down to middleweight, Jared Cannonier. I know that made it sound like I was picking Jared Cannonier. I'm not. But anyway, moving forward, we got UFC. What's this one? We got UFC 276. Adesanya versus Cannonier. We're going to break that all down. First, let's just real quick gloss over last weekend. Dan, Alex, how are you doing? How'd you enjoy the card? Alex, what's going on? What's going on, everybody?
I had a absolutely horrendous week. 6 out of 12, I believe. Not my best performance. Definitely took me off of the hot streak. I didn't win you guys any money this past weekend, but if you've been following my bets, you're up a couple grand and you can take a loss. You know what I mean? I ended up breaking even on a last minute bet, but I'm not happy with that. I want to make money, not lose it.
And Dan, you went, I believe, 5 out of 12. And, still right there in the 50% range. But for us, that's about as low as it gets. I mean, we don't really – we have very, very, very few nights where we are under 50% as far as our picks go. Very few. And, we all took a little bit of a hit as far as our stats go. Alex was at 81% accuracy in year 3. He took a 10% hit down to 71%. But still, we're all really holding down these nice meaty stats as far as our straight picks go. And were you able to, put anything together money-wise? Did you come away with any profits, or how'd your night go?
Yeah, so I didn't even know I went 5 for 12. I didn't even want to know. Okay, I knew I wasn't doing too well. Parlays didn't do too bad, to be honest. I got all the way up to the main event, decided to, put my Canoeing on the table, and they got smashed. They really did. I tried to do sort of like a fiscal responsibility play on one parlay, right? The small one, cashed me out, broke me out even, let the other one ride. Didn't work out. Gamrot got the dub. Should have listened to my boy Lukey CK, but you know what? Broke even, $112, to be honest. Okay, $112. So had a little bit of momentum going into the big one with International Fight Week at UFC 276.
Hey, and that's great. You posted your picks and your parlays in the Patreon. So if you were tailing Dan, you had that cash out opportunity to break even there, and then you could have decided what you were going to do as far as the main event goes. As for me, I went 7 out of 12 last weekend, and my parlays blew up for the most part with TJ Brown. Close fight. I had him by submission in a couple parlays. You got to look at how many submissions he's got on his record as far as wins and how many submission losses his opponent had. So I took Brown by submission in a couple sprinkle parlays, outcome based. Then I had him money line. So when he didn't get the submission, I wasn't that upset because I was kind of half watching the fight. I was driving home from a graduation party I was at. So I had the fight on my cell phone, and I was kind of like, half watching it. And then he loses the decision, and I'm completely blown away. I'm not even at home. I can't even rebuild my parlays at this point. They're all pretty much dead, so I got to drive home. I arrive home. Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira is ending. So now at this point, all my parlays are busted, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights left. I mean, and I'm down like $200. So I built a couple more parlays, some with Rachmanov by finish, but also they had Umar Nurmagomedov by finish. And those parlays blew up. So now I'm in the main event, and I'm down about $300 going into the main event, Gamrot versus Tsarukyan. Now, I was the only one on this podcast who picked Gamrot. I was the only one in the space that seemed to pick Gamrot. But I did this twice in a row for you guys. Emmett was a underdog in a close fight that we all knew was going to be close. Gamrot was in the exact same situation. So I was drunk enough to trust myself on the last fight of the night, and I put in enough to come away with like $300 profit. But if I had lost this, guys, we're talking $450 down the tubes, $550, something like that down the tubes. Granted, I was playing with a lot of house money, but it would have been a big blow. It would have been a huge swing. Even though it wasn't that big of a profit, it would have been a huge swing. But that's how my night went out. Let's see how our guest's night went. Prometheus versus Arman. And our guest is here now. We got Santino Defranco, a man who needs no introduction, joining the podcast. How are you, my friend?
Good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. We are thrilled to have you on. I mean, you're just everywhere in the space, from coaching to handicapping to giving your predictions and picks. So we're elated to have you on. And as somebody who's been watching The Ultimate Fighter since season 6, Matt Serra versus Hughes, I was 14 years old. You hit the scene three seasons later, Hendo versus Bisping. So we've been following you for a long time, directly or indirectly.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Dan booked you on the show. I want to kind of give him his opportunity because this was his doing. So, Dan, what's going on, man?
Well, listen, as you can see from my background, Santino, I'm a book lover, so I definitely want to give you an opportunity to talk about your book, memoir, actually. There are no hospitals in Russia. So just give us a little background on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I have a kind of a different story, in terms of MMA, and I just wanted to kind of bring people into the story of MMA and my story of MMA, and kind of blend the background of my upbringing, which was a little non-traditional as well. I mean, for those of you who have read the book already, I mean, I grew up without electricity, without running water, kind of a crazy scenario when I was younger, and I kind of mix a lot of my formative years and those stories in with how they relate to kind of my MMA career. Just talk about my MMA career in general, and just what it is actually like to be a fighter. Honestly, it's probably a lot like that in a lot of different sports as well. But fighting is probably a little bit different, just in the sense where it is so hard. There really is not a lot of money, and really guys are fighting out of passion. And the thought of making any money out of it, especially in the year 2000, should definitely be an afterthought. You should never go into fighting if you want to make money. Go into fighting because I ask all of the fighters when I meet them, what's wrong with you? Like, what happened that you became a fighter? Because everybody has no normal people are fighters. So, I talk about that a lot, talk about my MMA career, and just, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I mean, saying that there's no money to be made is funny, because there's so many hobbyists that will pay, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month and have no intention of ever competing or making money. And like you said, there's just something that kind of brings people together to this node that is a martial arts gym. And it's you always seem to find kindred spirits there. And when I took a look at your background and saw that you had a background as an English teacher, that you are passionate about writing, it's like you hear these same kind of common interests that permeate through the space. I was just listening to one of the newest Joe Rogan podcasts, where the guy who runs that Marcus Aurelius account was talking about Marcus Aurelius and how, he was a Stoic philosopher, but back then philosophers were warriors. Philosophers had experience. We think of philosophers now in Harvard or some university, but he was talking about how in the past, all these people who wrote from experience. And I love that that's what your whole journey has been, having this unique experience. And I think I even read that in some of your bio, which was like saying you learned that you needed to go out and have an interesting life if you wanted to have something to write about.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think writers were creators, but fighters and coaches were creators as well. I mean, I bet you find the most creative fighters, and they probably have a lot of other creative aspects of their life. I mean, I look at fighting more of an art than a science, and there's a lot of actual neuroscience, a lot of physiology behind fighting in terms of strength and conditioning, and there is a lot of science behind the body of it. But in terms of technique and abilities, that's an art, that's creativity. I mean, we can all, it's just like you go to a painting seminar, or, you go to art school, you're going to learn how to create stuff. You're going to learn how to paint. You're going to learn the strategies and things like that. But that's not going to teach you to be a painter. That's not going to teach you to be an artist. It's not going to teach you to write. You've got to do that on your own, and you've got to be able to create those things off of the things that you've learned. And again, it's, I can teach, I tell people all the time, I can teach you how to punch. I can teach you, how to kick. I can teach you how to choke. I cannot teach you how to fight. You have got to teach you how to fight. That is on you. That's nothing that I can ever do for you.
Yeah, you have to be able to make your own decisions with the information provided. And it's interesting that you also have this background as an entrepreneur, because any martial arts gym you go to, that's what you find, right? You find this culture of do-it-yourselfers, blaze your own trail, and eclectic mixes of all of these different, different arcs, right? And I see that you've done that with Content Pigeon, the company that you started to provide content. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I actually am not even doing that anymore. I started Content Pigeon. That was really, I was writing. I was doing a lot of writing. I was doing a lot of content writing and a lot of freelance writing. And then I was doing freelance videos and freelance marketing and stuff like that. So, I was doing that for a while, but then I just get kind of sidetracked because I bought a gas station. I own a restaurant. I train 2 gyms and, I'm writing a book or, just release the book and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really not. I used to do a ton of content writing and a ton of other marketing stuff, and I just don't have time for that anymore.
It's a good problem to have. And owning a gas station, could you help us out a little bit? Like, can we get a bulk discount? Like we all.
I wish. You guys don't realize it kills. Like, gas station owners get killed. Like, we don't get the money; the oil companies get the money. So the only thing, when gas prices go up, that ruins me. It ruins me. And I'm talking like you guys spend. All right, so think about this. You own a car, you spend an extra $20 a tank, say you fill it, I don't know, once a week or whatever. Your normal tank's $50, now you're paying $70. Or you want to get crazy and your normal tank is $80, now you're paying $150. Well, boohoo. Because I'm losing, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000 a month when it goes up. So you guys can kiss my ass with your $20 gas tank.
Yeah.
And not only $40,000, and that's just $40,000 a month that I have to pay extra in fuel. And then I lose margin. And then people are in my store less, people buy less gas. I mean, like, okay, it's an issue to have when you're filling up at the pump, but man, I wish those were the issues that I had. And I own a Tesla. I own a gas station for a business and I own a Tesla for a car. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing over here.
I love it. Well, I see one. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, just some recent history. You did pick up a big win with your fighter, Vanessa Demopoulos. But you've also coached, like, big name stars, right? Champions and former champions. Obviously, like, teaching is a part of your life as well. There's a certain art form to that. Can you tell us about the differences between coaching and teaching a fighter like Vanessa, who's early on in her career, versus coaching a current or even former champion?
Honestly, there's nothing different. There's nothing different between teaching, somebody like Vanessa, who's somewhat new to the game. I mean, she's been in the jiu-jitsu world for quite a while, versus like a Henry Cejudo, in MMA, versus teaching college English. I mean, teaching is teaching, and the difference is you don't understand when you meet people, whether it's a student in an English class or it's a fighter, you don't understand their skill set yet. So you have to everybody has a different skill set, and it doesn't even matter like a higher or a lower skill set. They just are a different skill set. And so as a teacher, I've got to find a way to relay that information to people. And there's just certain things that resonate with certain people. I mean, some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people have to physically feel you and move them around. Others need a combination of those things. And, it really, in a whether I'm teaching a regular jiu-jitsu class or a fight team class, I have people in there who come from a different country, who haven't graduated. I have people with 8th grade educations learning alongside engineers and lawyers. So the skill level is, or not even the skill level, the education level is so different. So people's ability to understand words is different. And that's really the thing with being a teacher. It's being able to relay the same piece of information to a multitude of different types of people, different backgrounds, and then figuring out really how that needs to fit into that person's game. Because I'm certainly not going to teach Vanessa Demopoulos how to fight like a 6'6", 185-pound man, or like a Henry Cejudo who has wrestled his whole life. So you've got to understand that there's different skill sets that people need to learn. And then there's a different approach to teaching those skill sets to the different fighters that are there. And that, honestly, is any good teacher. Again, that is not a science. That is an art right there. And it's just doing it. And you can see people's eyes when they just start to gloss over, and you're like, oh, I'm losing you. We need to switch up this, switch gears over here. And I'm fortunate enough to, I actually, a good friend of mine used to run a workshop where he would teach teachers. So we would go to school districts, and I would have, 30, 50, 100 teachers and principals, and I would actually teach them different pedagogy, which is, learning how to teach, how to learn. And, so I was fortunate enough to do those pedagogy courses. I understand teaching, I understand learning, and that has helped me in having to coach different people, different skill sets in different areas.
That's awesome. I'm actually starting my teaching career right now. I've had a lot of, graduate programs, teachers. I think you would have been a lot better. I didn't get a whole lot out of it, so I wish I had you teaching me along the way. But
what are you teaching?
Awesome. Social studies, high school social studies.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, good stuff. So, we know we got a hard out for you. You actually have to teach in a little bit. So, why don't we get this fired up with UFC 276?
Hold on. I came in and you guys were talking about downtown blow up your parlays, TJ Brown. That dude, he blew up everybody's parlay in the world. And man, and I should have known better. All right. So there's two things with TJ Brown. And if you guys have heard me talk about fights with Brandon on my podcast, I always say this because I'm big on stocks. I've made all of my money to buy my gas station in the stock market. And I always say, don't bet on bad stocks. Don't bet on bad fighters. And man, TJ Brown, before he fought Charles Rosa, I was so low on him because he makes such bad decisions. And then he did really well against Charles Rosa, who I also think very lowly of, and not as a human or anything, but just as a fighter. They just both make a lot of bad decisions. Pulling guard, staying on the bottom, playing jiu-jitsu instead of getting on top. And I should have known TJ Brown is a bad fighter in terms of betting. And I freaking bet him anyway. And he ruined everything. And all of us knew. And what the hell were any of us doing? Why did any of us have anchor TJ Brown? And I think the whole freaking betting world did, as if he's some sort of a lock. Now, if you're going to bet Gamrot or Sarukian, those are two good, solid fighters. And you can't really go wrong with whoever wins or loses because you're betting good fighters. TJ Brown and his Chinese opponent that I'm not going to try and even say his name because it's too many syllables. Like, neither of those guys are good opponents. Why in the hell did any of us bet on them? Shame on us.
No, I agree 100%. We're huge position over submission people here on this podcast. Every single one of us, we love that. And for me to take Brown by submission was very uncharacteristic of me because I looked at the records and I'm like, look, he's training with Bryce Mitchell. And Bryce Mitchell is a terrorist on the ground for a lot of these guys. And I'm like, this guy's coming from China. He's not gonna be able to wrestle with an American stud like TJ Brown. And I convinced myself. And like I said, I didn't even really get to put my whole attention onto the fight. So I don't even really know how I saw him in positions as I was, like I said, I'm driving. I got my phone to see, I'm in red lights and traffic and I'm looking over when I can, but I'm seeing him.
It was everything we could have ever hated.
I know.
Just playing a lot of bottom game, going for submissions a lot, which is cool. He did end a lot of rounds, like kind of.
You better be Muniz. You better be Andre Muniz if you're going to be playing that game. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you're in 1997.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, you have a hard out, so we're going to start breaking down the main card of this. If you need to leave, raise your hand, and we'll just have you list off those 5 picks that you have for this week's main card, and then you can hop out. But because I don't want to rush through this because there's even some more stuff. So you mentioned as somebody who when you're betting on these fighters, like what kind of conflicts of interest do you run into with like being on the inside? Or not that there's a conflict of interest, but what kind of I guess situations do you find where you do have to like mince words, or do you ever do that?
No, I don't really mince words. The only thing that I do is I will not speak about my own fighters. So I won't do it. I won't speak on them. I won't bet on them. Even people who train with me, like, hey, should, let's take Vanessa last week. Hey, should I bet on Vanessa, this and that? And I'm like, I don't know. Don't ask me. Like, I won't talk about it. I don't believe in it. I'm not going to do it. So other than that, I mean, I just don't give a shit.
Now, if you like, would this be illegal? Would this scenario be illegal? If you and Vanessa are backstage and you've been working arm bars the whole camp and you're like, yo, the plan is we're going out there arm bar first round. We're submitting her in the first round. That's the plan. A little sprinkle on first round submission. If you kind of know the mentality, is that illegal or is that just unethical or is that neither? I mean, I personally would think.
Well, it's definitely not illegal, but because you don't understand the outcome. The only thing I believe that would be illegal is if were to say she loses by first round submission, something like that. But again, I don't I don't do anything. I mean, I don't touch my fighters. I don't bet on them. I won't talk about it. I just don't. I don't find the need. And then also we get caught up in our own heads, and you start. There's just no reason to. There's no reason to. There's so many other fights to. Like that is its own sacred moment. A fight is, and to try and bastardize that by getting caught up in gambling and money, like man, like that's I shouldn't be doing that.
I understand. It makes perfect sense.
That said, being backstage with a lot of people warming up and seeing different situations has made me a lot of money right before fights occur on other people's fights. So that I definitely get a sneak peek and inside look on how warm-ups look and what is going on. And I'll regularly throw some money down backstage when I see some people. I'm like, oh, this guy looks amazing, or this guy looks like garbage.
Yeah, that's
Especially if you see somebody like nursing an injury in there.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen anybody nursing an injury, but what I see is the warm-up, and I see if like the adrenaline is getting them. I see if they're really adrenalined out, if they seem nervous, if they seem freaked out, kind of the techniques that they're using to warm up and stuff like that. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And I would never post anything like that publicly, but I'm like, let me get my phone out and bet some money.
Yeah, you might not post it publicly, but maybe like in a DM to a couple of your buddies, right? I mean,
I don't. People, you want to know what's funny is people get mad at me because I'm like, man, I don't have time to like DM you. Like, I've got stuff going on. I'm gonna make a bet really quickly and get back to what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm warming up my fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, it's hard enough having a Patreon like we do, and then we post our open bets, and then one of them goes kaput, and we make another open bet. Now I'm like trying to place the bet as the fight's starting, and then I'm trying to screenshot that and put that in the Patreon, and it's chaotic, so.
It's hard.
Well, anyway, we got an absolute blessing of a card coming up. UFC 276, Adesanya versus Cannonier. Let's start at the top, and let's start with our esteemed guest, Santino Defranco. Take us through this main event.
Oh, so we're going top down. Okay. Man, I think we've kind of already seen this fight play out a little bit with Whitaker and Jared Cannonier. Cannonier is as tough as they get. He's very good. He's very structurally sound in terms of his technique. Standing. He's not much of a wrestler, but his defensive grappling is pretty good, and he gets back up to his feet. But this is going to be a stand-up affair. I mean, I can't fathom that a lot is going to be going on in the grappling department. Now, maybe some clinching, maybe some pushing up against the fence. And I think that's actually Cannonier's best chance to win here is to force some clinch situations and throw some elbows off of the break. That's where he does a lot of really good damage. We saw that with Brunson. In terms of striking, Cannonier really likes his low kicks. He loves he loves low kick on either stance fighter. If he's fighting same stance as him, he goes outside. If he is fighting opposite stance, he still goes outside, but he like switches and goes outside. And then he likes to fire that middle kick as well. Offensively, he kind of leads with kicks, and that doesn't always work out for him because we saw it with Whitaker. Not every time, but he would lead with a kick, and then Whitaker would step in and counter with a jab, at the same time. It kind of would get him off balance. And hand-wise, he really doesn't initiate hands. He likes to counter. He likes it when people swing on him. He likes to draw people in, and then he'll happily oblige them in a swing fest. But he doesn't really lead the dance in that sense. Now, with Izzy, I think it's going to be a really hard style for him because Izzy is so long. Physically, he's long, but he fights long, and then he controls distance really well. And I think if Izzy plays on the outside and really just takes his time, I think Cannonier is going to have to really force his way on the inside, which is not his natural style. He stays on the outside and counter punches. And I think it's going to have to, I think two things are going to happen. We're going to see Cannonier rush in, end up getting caught with something, or honestly, Izzy could get caught too. And we'll get to that afterwards. I think if Cannonier does rush in and really starts forcing stuff, one of them could catch each other. But more than likely, I see kind of a boring, weird Izzy fight where he's on the outside and touching and really not initiating a lot, but just kind of scoring little by little until either the fight ends or Cannonier is like, okay, I've got to press something. I got to find my way on the inside and and something falls in play there. But what Cannonier needs to really do is he's got to throw 3, 4, 5 punches in his combination. He's got to press in. And you see it a lot when people throw punches at Izzy. He shoulder rolls and really is almost matrixy, which is really good for 1 or 2 punches. And so as he's rocking back, say Cannonier throws a 1-2, well, he needs to jump in and fire another 1-2 or a cross across. He's not going to land the first or the second punch, and he's got to find that third, fourth, fifth punch, somewhere, striking wise, hand wise. Maybe the kicks, maybe he can start to capitalize on some kicking stuff like he did with Anderson Silva. I don't think so. I think Izzy's, he's kickboxing enough I think he's going to check those kicks a lot. I think it's an MMA fight. Anything can happen at all. And Cannonier absolutely can catch him if Izzy is sloppy and lazy. But I don't think that's going to happen here. And I think we're going to see kind of kind of what we saw with Whitaker and Cannonier, and very similar to what we saw with Izzy in his last fight with Whitaker, minus the wrestling.
Do you think we see the Killer Gorilla even push him for a takedown based on the size alone? Like, this guy used to be a heavyweight. He's stocky. He's strong. And, as you said, Izzy is long and wiry. A little bit hard to take down sometimes. But I think that mere size could play into some takedowns for Cannonier.
Well, I mean, have we ever seen Cannonier go for takedowns? I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen him wrestle. So what makes us think that he would wrestle now? I just don't. It's like, I always like the football analogy. It's like, well, if somebody has a really weak offensive line, but we don't have any running backs, you can't really exploit that. So you got to play to your strengths, not to your opponent's weakness. If your strength is their weakness, great. But man, I would go my strengths versus their weakness if that's not a strong point any day of the week. Do what you're good at. Don't panic. I think if he starts trying to wrestle now, I don't think he's going to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. I just think it's harder for me to imagine in my mind's eye this fight looking boring. I don't think that Cannonier is the type to let this opportunity pass him by. I think that he's going to put himself into the fire. I think Cannonier's best opportunity is rounds 1 through 3. If it's still going on in round 4 and 5, I think Izzy takes complete control in those rounds, because what it's going to take for Cannonier to get to Israel, like you said, is going to be those multiple punch combinations, getting through Izzy running around the cage, frustrating him, making him chase him down. That's taxing. That's going to take a lot of and Cannonier is definitely going to have the shallower gas tank, I believe, just because of his history at heavyweight and the way he's built compared to Israel. So I'm taking Israel. I love that it's such a wide line, because if we get our whole show is the perfect parlay pursuit. So we build 12 fight parlays and hope to hit every single fight correctly. So if we get to that 12th fight, I'll have a really easy hedge on opportunity on Cannonier. And I'll probably just make it a break-even play. But that being said, Israel does lean back with that check hook, and it's worked for him. But every time he does it, it makes me nervous. I mean, he keeps his head very straight up when he does that. He doesn't get all the way back, and it happens in these situations, like with the Whitaker fight, where they're close, and it's almost like you said, if Cannonier takes that extra couple, if he's willing to eat that check hook and just wade through it, it might look a lot like Weidman versus Silva the first time.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was actually going to mention that. And if you look at that, though, the difference between Weidman, Silva, and Izzy, Silva's feet were planted when he was shoulder rolling and rocking like that. Izzy naturally steps back and switches his stance as he's rolling. And that does help him. But again, it is a very risky situation to do. You know what I mean? So I do get that. You would think that Cannonier's path to victory would be to press and to press and to press. And I agree with that 100%. But again, that's not his style. So on a coaching level, I'm going, what are his coaches doing? Because Izzy's the taller fighter. Cannonier counters. Is he going to go forward? I don't know. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see the game plan, because that's what I think the path to victory is. I bet you they're going to kick a lot low early, try and slow his movement down, and then start trying to press kicks and then follow with hands. I would assume, but what do I know?
Yeah, you're just the head coach of a world champion. Go ahead, Dan.
I definitely kind of see what you guys are spewing out here. I'm going to go with Izzy as well. I think the minus 350 price tag is pretty well justified. There's kind of a Matator and a bull kind of scenario going on here, right? If Cannonier kind of goes opposite, like you were saying, Coach, from his usual game plan, sticking it to the outside, that's obviously not going to work against a fighter like Adesanya, just a master of distance control, right? So if he does adjust the game plan and go forward, he might have some success. But personally, I'm still going to ride with Izzy on this one.
And you hate Izzy, and you.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan.
Time.
That's just that's my preference. But as far as the fight goes, I'm going to stick with Izzy. Maybe hedge out if we get there, but we'll see.
That makes me a little nervous. The doggy isn't taking the dog, so I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with everybody here. I think Israel Adesanya, he has mastered more styles, and that is why he's the style bender. If you've watched Avatar, if he's just fighting somebody who only knows The Rock, which is kind of like Cannonier, he's kind of an earth type. He's going to come in there like a rocket. I just think Izzy blends it all together a little better. So I'm going with Izzy.
Lovely. Well, we probably only have time for one more breakdown from you, Santino Defranco. So why don't you take us through the second championship fight, and then we can let you get out of here because we know you're busy. But thank you so much for joining the show, obviously. And anything you got to promote, plug, or whatever, feel free to do so. And thank you so much for joining us. Next time, we'll be able to get a lot more picks in for everybody. Sorry that we wasted a bunch of time doing the little intro stuff, but it's not every day we have a world champion head coach on our podcast. So we had to do a little get to know him.
Yeah, and sorry guys. I mean,
no worries. No.
I am really busy, and so I just don't have and you guys are on the East Coast, so that kind of messes up the time frame a little bit too. Right. So definitely my apologies. But man, Volk and Max is one of my hardest picks on the card. My other one that I'm really, really torn with is Munhoz and Uriah Hall. So, and both of them are very similar odds. And these are, just in general, you guys, look at these type of odds, these minus 200 plus, and then on the other side, you've got plus 175, plus 180, plus 200, stuff like that. Those are the hardest fights, I think, for me to call, because those are the bombs. That's what TJ Brown was. It's you have a guy who's the A side who should win. And then on the other side of that, you've got just somebody who could disrupt the entire situation. And that's what we have here. Volkanovski is the favorite. I think he's minus 200 last time I looked. I think Max is like plus 175 here. Everybody, I think, on the planet thought that Max won the second fight. And I did as well until I was watching tape for Korean Zombie. My guy fought Volkanovski last. And Max lost that fight. I mean, he definitely did better than he did the first time, but Volkanovski won that fight with wrestling late in the rounds. And for as much as I wanted Zombie to beat up Volkanovski, he is that freaking good. He lost, I think, the first 2 rounds to Max. I think he lost it. He got dropped in the first round. I forget exactly how the second round went. And then he knew he had 3 rounds left and he had to win all 3 of them. And he switched up his game plan. The first rounds, he's moving around, he's touching, he's going. Max was pressing and Max was winning. Max was tagging him up. The third round, he comes out, he starts pressing, he starts wrestling, he starts finding his rhythm, and he starts stealing rounds. And he did that. He knew he couldn't give up another round. And he got those beautiful inside trips on Max again and again and again. Every time they would clinch, he would actually go shoot, come up into a body lock, and then hit those inside trips, which even that alone, if you take Max down, you hit him on a single, you hit him on a double, his butt hits the mat, he hip heights, he slides out, he pushes off beautifully, and he gets right back up. Just wrestlers, MMA, we know that inside trips, you land in the guard. Even if you're able to get back up, it is such a harder situation because you're flat back, your butt's not on the ground, you're flat on the ground, you're square with it, and you're in full guard. He was really able to control a lot with that. I think Max has looked just unbelievable his last 2 fights. That Cater fight happened, which was just a masterpiece. And then the Yair fight, which was great. And Yair started getting the better of him a little bit. And he ended up getting the takedowns and winning that. Just showed really good gamemanship and really good fight IQ on his side as well. That said, I think this is going to come down to wrestling and who's making the adjustments. If Volkanovski wrestles early and he wrestles often and he starts stealing rounds with wrestling, it is going to be his fight if it goes to a decision. I think Max needs to try and put him away. I think he needs to take some risks. I think he can put him away. He's hurt him. He's dropped him before. If he doesn't put him away, I don't know that he's going to win this. And as much as I love Max. I've been shouting Max from the rooftops on everything on both of those fights. You know, gun to my head, I think Volkanovski is probably going to win this one again.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I know you got to get going. Thank you so much for your time and for helping us break down that one, because that's so great to get your insight since you've helped prepare Korean Zombie for that one. So tremendous.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. If you want do you want any other quick picks before I take off, or
if you want to list out your next three, if you want to just list them out real quick.
Yeah, who's next on the card below that?
So next we got
Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira.
Oh, that is actually a close one. I think Pereira wins this. I like Strickland. I like his pressure. I think Pereira can either finish him or get up 2 rounds before he tires out, and Strickland wins the third.
Okay, and then we got Munhoz versus O'Malley.
O'Malley from the rooftops.
And Robbie Lawler versus Bryan Barberena. Super excited to get your take on this one.
Robbie Lawler, every day of the week. He looks phenomenal. He sold his soul to Satan. It is some Dorian Gray shit going on because he's just getting younger with age. And at the odds, those lines, Barberena and Lawler, I mean, how do you not take Lawler at? I think he's like minus or pretty even money. So from the rooftops, man. So
love it. And we do the main card on YouTube, and we do the prelims on Patreon. So we'll get through the main card on our own since you got to get going. But thank you so much for joining us. We can't thank you enough.
Hey, I appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for coming on. And if you guys want to check me out on Instagram, go for it. It's just Santino Defranco. And I'll see you guys later. Good luck with your bets. Because shit, I hate losing money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Appreciate it, guys. Have fun.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Dang, that was awesome.
That was some expert analysis right there, and that was amazing.
I got all this, and I got all these notes about Cheeto Santino and Bobby Lee's podcast. I thought we were having on Andrew Santino.
That's hilarious. So, yeah, I kept.
I'm messing.
No, but I kept writing out when I was like writing to you guys, like, oh, we might have this guest. I was like, write out Andrew, and I have to backspace. It's like, that's not fucking Andrew Santino.
I know they kind of look alike too. It's tough.
And Luke did steal that joke from me in the group chat, and I made that joke to Dan. So
that's true.
Just so everybody knows, Luke is a thief. He is a Carlos Mencia.
Parallel thinking, bro. It's parallel thinking. So yeah, we got a nice 12 card off, 12 fight offering. We just took you through the main event, and we're gonna get through this main card, and then we're gonna hop over to the Patreon and break down the prelims. And so I'm just digesting everything that he said. I mean, there's a lot that he confirmed in my mind. We're gonna get through this main card breakdown, and I'll tell you what. But I will say there's one I disagree on. So let's move forward. What do you guys think about the Holloway versus Volkanovski matchup? Because this is an interesting one, and I know exactly what he means by the odds. Everybody knows I love Max. Everybody knows that I'm a Hawaiian at heart. I've been to the Big Island. I've been to places on the Big Island. I ain't talking tourist destinations. I'm not talking Dolphin Quest. I've been there, but I've also been to South Point. I've been to places that the Howleys can't go, which means what? I'm not a Howley. And when I go back to the Big Island, there will be a luau that I will attend. And that's that. And I know you guys hate it. I know you hate that I'm a Hawaiian. But, I'm an island boy. Manhattan, Hawaii, islands, if it's an island, they'll have me. And, Max is the man. Max is the man.
Is the luau in your honor?
I'm sorry?
Is the luau in your honor?
It'll be upon my return, to celebrate my return. Yeah.
Okay.
It actually will. I'm blessed. I have a lot of great friends in Hawaii. So the reality is, I love Max, but he's pissed me off. He's rubbing me the wrong way. I got through about 9 minutes of his Ariel Helwani interview, and I had to shut it off. Let me say, Ariel Helwani's interview's entirely too long. Okay, entirely too long. It's a 40-minute interview. I had to turn it off after 9. I'd seen enough. Okay.
Ariel stinks.
So much fluff so much. It's so much of him just trying to get an invitation to their fucking baby shower and stuff. It's like him trying to schmooze the whole time. We're not getting to the fucking meat here. This isn't I don't know. Either way, I guess I do my fair share of smoozing when Joe Solecki's on, when Santino Defranco's on. I guess I do my fair share of smoozing as well. Okay, but let me just say this: he's buddying up to Max Holloway, and he's asking Max, "Did you watch Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie?" Max says, "No, I didn't watch it." So right off the bat, that's a little negligent. It's a little bit negligent, but I'll give that one a pass. Strike 2, and I don't go 3 strikes you're out. I go 2 strikes you're out. Strike 2 was when Ariel said, Ariel does his normal thing. I'm big on open scoring. You guys deserve to know your lives are on the line and your livelihoods are at stake, and you deserve to know the score of the rounds. As if, in Ariel's non-athletic mind, he thinks that like these guys are sandbagging and they're like, like not trying to fight for their life. Like they're just, like, oh, well, I'll try. I think I'm up. I don't need to try. It's like you might get knocked out. Like the stakes are high. They're always going for the kill. They're always trying to win. That's what I really believe. Until Max says, yeah, no, I agree with you. And Ariel says, so going into round 5, if you had known that it was scored the way it was, would you have changed anything? And he goes, yeah, I probably would have pushed on the gas a little bit more or whatever. It's like that lost everything for me when it comes to Max Holloway. That lost absolutely everything. So I think Max should probably do jail time for saying that, because he's essentially doing what a quarterback would do. He's shaving points. He's sandbagging. He's not trying hard. When you sign a contract to fight in the UFC, you are promising that you will fight to the best of your ability the entire time. Anything else is criminal. Anything else is breach of contract. Anything else is what Santino Defranco kind of talked about, which is almost like throwing a fight. So when a guy comes out and tells me that going into round 5 of a championship fight, when the last fight was a close fight, and he tells me that he would have tried harder if he didn't already think he was winning, that to me is the biggest indicator to not have open scoring. Because if he knew he was winning, then he would have really phoned it in that 5th round. He would have really sandbagged in that 5th round. But he didn't know he was winning. He just thought he was. And then he got what he deserved, which is to be rewarded with failure for a half-assed effort. And I got to take a piss now, and I'm fired up. But I know Alex is going to, try to say what I said was bullshit, but I don't even want to be here for that. So I'll still be able to hear you guys, but I got to cool off for a second. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Max Holloway fan, always have been. I personally thought he won both of the first 2 fights.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Oh.
Yeah. You sounded like Christopher when have you watched Sopranos?
No.
Christopher's girlfriend, I forget her name, she tells him that she got an abortion and they pierced her ovary or something like that. Or no, her uterus. They pierced her uterus, and he was thinking that she was talking about her ovaries, and he was like, both of them? Hilarious. Topical too with everything going on. But anyway, I'm going Max Holloway. I thought he won the first 2 fights. I think he comes out here like a bat out of hell. Somebody let him out of a cage. He's been in there for a while, and we all know during that first fight, if Luke was in Hawaii was locked down, or the second fight, Hawaii was locked down crazy, dude. Their lockdown for COVID was nuts. So he really didn't have so was New Zealand at the same time, actually. But he's an Aussie boy, which was also, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm contradicting myself like crazy because these are the 3 worst places to be during that time in terms of lockdown restrictions. But I'm going with Max Holloway all the way. I think he won both of the first 2 fights. When I saw them in the moment, I can understand why you coast. And I don't think that coasting when you think you have 3 rounds in the bag means that you're throwing a fight. It means that you've won the fight and you're like, okay, now I'm in survival.
You're robbing the fans of our entertainment dollar. That's first. Okay, so that's the first thing you're doing. The second thing you're doing is you're robbing yourself. You're robbing yourself of what could have been.
Yeah, and it's just silly because you never know what the judges are saying. And clearly, it was a close fight. He wasn't running away with it anyway. So,
it was the absolute smoking gun, and he didn't even know. And listen, guys, it's no secret Hawaii's education system is worse than Alabama's. It's no secret. They have the worst education, worse than Mississippi probably. And Mississippi might be the only place with a worse school system than Hawaii. So I'm not saying that Max wasn't completely outsmarted by Ariel Helwani into saying something that is possibly criminal. Like, he really indicted himself there. And I don't know that I can ever really forgive that, because if you're telling me that you think it's 2-2 going in round 5, and you think you're winning going in round 5, so in your mind you make the decision to coast. Had you known that it was 2-2, you would have tried harder.
Luke, can we get on with the picks? This has been a long episode. No interjections in between picks. Right.
True.
All right, Dan.
All right, I will bring some sanity back to this podcast and roll with Alexander Volkanovski. Guy already won 2 fights. I don't see why he doesn't win a third. I love what Coach was saying, where Max has to be the one to take the big risks. He has to be the one to end the fight. I really don't like that. Number one, Max isn't exactly a finisher. Number two, Volkanovski doesn't go out that easily. Brian Ortega can tell you that. So he also has more weapons with the wrestling, and the striking is getting better every fight. The way he looked against Korean Zombie was insane. I mean, he was just so sharp, so technical with power shots. I think this is the best version of Alexander Volkanovski that we're ever going to see. He's at his prime of his powers, and I think that'll shine brightly at UFC 276 this coming Saturday. I think it's going to be a parlay pillar, leading us up to the main event and win us all some big money.
Max has 12 UFC finishes.
Okay, well, against who? Against
Jose
nobody.
Jose Aldo.
Okay, so guys who are washed
Justin
up
Lawrence,
in
Will Chop, Andre Touchy-Feely, Clay Collard,
145.
Akira Kurosani,
Yeah,
Cub
early
Swanson,
on.
Charles Oliveira, Anthony Pettis, Jose Aldo,
That's three
Jose
champions in a row.
Aldo,
No,
Brian
three champions in a
Ortega.
row.
Okay, Oliveira at 145. Okay, not a champion at 145. Not even a good fighter at one. Okay, halfway decent fighter at 145. Jose Aldo, end of his career at 145.
I mean,
He's
he was
good
20
now
and
at
4.
bantamweight. Not very good at 145 towards the end there. And all the rest of the guys early on. I mean, Anthony Pettis not in the UFC anymore. Like, come on, he's a volume striker.
So you're saying the GOAT of the featherweight division isn't a
if he finished him in like
Finished
2008 in Aldo's prime at featherweight, that'd be different. He finished him in like 2016.
But then you see Aldo now. He's
at
reinvigorated.
bantamweight, at a whole different weight class. It's different.
Whatever, Dan. You're full of crap.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that'll be that. Triple B certifying Izzy, not Holloway. Moving on. Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. Guys, Alex Pereira has 6 fights in the UFC. Sean Strickland has 6 fights total. Sean Strickland has 28. Alex Pereira has no ground game. Sean Strickland is an absolute monster when it comes to his pressure, his pace, his doggedness, his persistence. I think this fight looks just like the Uriah Hall fight, except with more dominance from Strickland. I think, Strickland blew me away with the Uriah Hall fight. I picked Hall in that fight, and Strickland came in there and just, made it look easy. And now Uriah Hall's a bit of a head case, but the skill set's kind of similar. And in fact, I would say Uriah Hall's better than Alex Pereira, especially in the well-roundedness category. And Sean Strickland, you watch his interviews with Helen Yee and the Schmo, he's at Extreme Couture grinding his ass off for this fight. And in the wrestling department, right? In the grappling department. Only risk is if I think a cut might get opened up on Sean. He's got a lot of scar tissue from his training camps, some knees, some elbows, from the bottom maybe, wild shit. Could get a cut, maybe stopped. Something weird might happen. I'm going with Sean Strickland.
Couldn't agree more. Sean Strickland's on my fantasy team. Dan locked in 3 points last week with a layup of a fight between 2 guys on his team. Beautiful performance, Dan.
Loophole, baby.
You pick him well. You pick him well. You got 3 points right there, but I'm going to get 4 points. Or wait, is Alex Pereira even ranked?
No. He's not ranked.
Oh my gosh. They're 18th. Wow. They're giving him the opportunity of a lifetime right here. Luckily, Tarzan is a savage. Sean Strickland's going to go out there. He's going to kill this guy. He will kill Alex Pereira. The only fights Sean Strickland has ever lost were in the UFC, and they were when he was at welterweight. So to Dan's credit earlier about Jose Aldo, he is undefeated as a middleweight. He is on the path to fighting Israel Adesanya. This is the perfect platform to jump off of. I just knocked out the guy that knocked you out. So I'm going to go out there and kill Alex Pereira. That's what I think Sean Strickland's going to say. Separate the art from the artist. I don't like Sean Strickland very much as a person. I love him as a fighter.
If Sean Strickland knocks out Alex Pereira, it's definitely not going to be standing. There'll definitely be some ground and pound there. If this thing stays standing, I think it's going to be an execution Alex Pereira style. He's like one of the best kickboxers in the world. Sean Strickland.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Sean Strickland has some of the best Philly shell boxing. Him and Chris Curtis, and like Wonder Boy are like the 3 best Philly shell style fighters.
He's good. I feel like he's a very good boxer, but I feel like, if he goes in there and he gets juiced up by the crowd and he thinks that he's going to be able to stand for 3 rounds, I think he's going to be sadly mistaken. But yeah, obviously the takedown is definitely going to be there. He gets a lot of work done in the grappling department. He trains it very well. And I think if he blends that into his game plan, he's going to have a much higher rate of success. That being said, I'm still going to ride with Alex Pereira. No triple P certification on this one. I think there's a reason why he's on the same card as Izzy, right? The UFC wants to set that fight up. Guy who once defeated Adesanya in kickboxing. They need some new, fresh talent at middleweight, especially as opponents for Adesanya. I just see this thing going Pereira's way.
So only one triple P certified pick through 3 on the main card. If you want the prelims, you got to come to the Patreon. Next up, we got Pedro Munhoz versus Sean O'Malley. Luke, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I agree with Defranco. I mean, I think that it's definitely the hardest matchup Sean's faced, and I think Munhoz is an absolute workhorse. He's a gatekeeper, to say the least, but kind of like that upper echelon, top 5 kind of gatekeeper, not really like a top 10 gatekeeper. He's like really good, amazing strength of schedule. But Munhoz just can't get it done, man. He's like a Frankie Edgar style fighter where, it's like, yeah, he's not losing dramatically, but he's not winning. He's just bouncing around with movement and stuff, and not there doesn't seem to be an urgency behind Pedro Munhoz in these fights like with Aldo, right? Now with the Cruz fight, he almost got the finish in that first round. But what do we always say? You go for the finish and fail to get it, you're gonna lose the decision. He lost the decision. I'm gonna go with O'Malley here because he's good against shorter guys. He loves having that height advantage. Pedro Munhoz, I don't think poses some of the same kind of like tenacity threats that a guy like Chito Vera does, or even a guy like Jose Aldo does. So that's why I'm going to take Sean O'Malley, and I think that he comes across with a kick across Pedro's dome and might finish him.
Oof. Yeah, as Coach said, I think Sean O'Malley from the rooftops is a good play here. Definitely a parlay pillar across all of them. I see this fight being like a O'Malley, Chris Moutinho 2.0. Okay, it's going to be like a little bit more exciting. But yeah, same kind of premise, right? Guy with a similar stature, just size and, the way he's built, coming forward, trying to get, within the range of what they're comfortable with, right? More of like a dirty boxing than like a long distance kickboxing match. Don't think he's going to be able to actually get it in that position, though. O'Malley is just a master of range, so fast, so powerful, so dynamic. I think he's going to have a ton of success as long as he can manage his gas tank, because I think Munhoz is going to be up in his face the whole time. But again, as long as he manages his gas tank pretty well, I think he's going to have a ton of success. Give me Sean O'Malley at -250.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys already know, I am the bad boy of the fantasy league. Dan just took the lead with that, or actually tied for the lead with that Gamrot pick. But I have Izzy Adesanya, Max Holloway, Sean Strickland. Wait, I thought I had O'Malley.
Does anyone?
Wait. No, I definitely have. Yeah, I have Sugar Sean O'Malley. So I have 4 fighters on the main card this weekend. Sugar Sean O'Malley can win me 3 points. Sean Strickland can win me 1. Max Holloway can win me 5. Israel Adesanya can win me 5. I am going for legendary territory here, where I can win a total of 14 points. Is my math correct? 5-5, 3-1, 14 points in the fantasy league. Wow. Dan thought he was nipping at my paws, and they all called me stupid for taking Colby Covington midway through the year, dropping him, and then picking up the same person I dropped him for. They called me an idiot. But guess what, ladies and gents? We're almost in the 7th month of the year, and I still have both of my drops. So Colby Covington was worth it, and I'm going to ride with my team once again. Sugar Sean O'Malley, devastating fashion. I think Pedro Munhoz, he's too short. He won't be able to get on the inside of Sugar Sean O'Malley. The only path to victory for him is taking him down. And Sean has a pretty decent ground game as well. So I think Pedro Munhoz is one of these guys who found a lot of success with his ground game in the beginning of his career and fell in love with his hands after he started seeing a couple bodies hit the floor. So that being said, Dan, what are you picking? Because I'm picking Sugar Sean O'Malley, and I'm getting 16 points or 14 points this weekend.
Already gave my pick, going with O'Malley. Regret that it's going to benefit your fantasy team, but it'll also benefit my wallet, and that's good enough for me.
And if you want to know more about that fantasy team, at the beginning of this year, go back in the episodes. We did a fantasy draft in January. So go to the month of January, look at that video. You can see who we picked. You can see the scoring criteria, how all that breaks down. And we even posted that into the Discord. So you can, hop on, make your own team, kind of track along with us if you'd like. So that is going to take us to the first fight opening up this main card, and it's going to be Bryan Barberena versus Robbie Lawler. And my opinion is the exact same as Santino Defranco's. Robbie Lawler from the rooftops. Robbie Lawler, hopefully I can get him at underdog odds, but if it's a pick'em, I'm fine with it. And Bryan Barberena, guys, I mean, he barely got Matt Brown out of there. That was one of the sloppiest fights ever. They say, oh, that's the fight you get your friends to watch if they're not if they haven't seen the sport. It's like, no, that was a guy with gray hair versus a guy with painted toenails, and neither of them looked like they won at the end, and neither of them looked like they could fight another minute at the end, and it did not display the best type of fighting or athleticism at all. Like, I would not want to show people that fight to get them into the sport, especially afterwards. The guy says, oh, I'm going to retire. It's like, okay, now he's going to come back and face Robbie Lawler. Yeah, last guy who retired and came back and faced Robbie Lawler, what happened to him? He quit. Nick Diaz. And that's not a name you hear in the same sentence as the word quit, but that's what fucking happened. That being said, Nick Diaz went and threw 150 fucking punches in that first round. So I forgive Nick Diaz, because if you're going to come out there and throw 5-round volume in one round, you don't have to do round 2 or round 3. You're good. You can get on out of there. He did a 5-round fight in 2 minutes, in 7 minutes. So Nick Diaz is a legend. Anybody who says Nick was washed going into that didn't fucking do the math. Nick threw up 200 strikes in that fight, okay? And Robbie Lawler was facing somebody who wasn't going to go down easy, and it took a lot for Robbie Lawler to do that, and he did it. And he's going to do that against Bryan Barberena. I think he sits him down with an uppercut, follows up, finishes him, gets a classic Robbie Lawler finish.
Robbie Lawler is going backwards in time. He's a modern-day Benjamin Button. He's going to go out there and destroy Bryan Barberena. I know these guys are similar in age, but Matt Brown, Robbie Lawler is not, and Bryan Barberena is not Nick Diaz. So he's going to go down like a ton of bricks, dude. He's going to hit the floor hard. Robbie Lawler is going to finish this one. And Luke, I highly recommend you stop betting on finish bets. They are always what kill you.
Yeah.
But this is one where I feel like the proof is in the pudding. Robbie Lawler is going to put this guy away.
Oof. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Okay. We're all talking about Robbie Lawler turning back time and all this. What I'm saying is he lost like 4 straight fights previous to that Nick Diaz fight. So
List those losses.
Okay.
List those losses.
Let me list them. Hold on.
Okay.
I got it right here. The losses are Neil Magny.
Good. And Neil was very good back then because he was surging.
Good, not great. Colby Covington, great.
He's really good.
Ben Askren.
Ben Askren, he won that fight. Okay.
Yeah. RDA. Good.
Champion.
Great.
Fighters.
Good.
Okay.
The win previous to that was Donald Cerrone. Loss previous to that, Tyron Woodley.
Okay.
So, I mean,
when he lost his title.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, and he's in the same weight class, right?
Yeah, they're in the same.
All right, I'm just making sure. Because apparently when you switch weight classes, all of your
Colby
accolades
Covington.
go down the drain.
You forgot Colby Covington.
I said Colby Covington.
You did say Colby Covington. And Johnny Hendricks, which he did win that fight as well.
Oh, man, that's going way back. That's in December of
2014.
2014. Oh, listen, all I'm saying here is that Bryan Barberena definitely puts up the strikes, okay? His last fight, he landed 111. Previous to that, 108. He racked up 169 strikes against Vicente Luque in a 3-round fight. So the volume's definitely there. I think it's going to be a very close fight that you guys are going to be sweating through. I did watch
Dan, 201 round wasn't enough.
Vincente
201 round wasn't enough.
Robbie Lawler has
Put
literally
Robbie
never
Lawler
been
away.
finished except by that one finish, Tyron Woodley. That one finish, okay?
Right.
And here's the other thing. I forget what I was going to say.
Okay,
I don't know.
but Dan, Nick Diaz hit him more than Bryan Barberena is hitting these guys in 1 round, let alone 3.
More
So
than
you're
Bryan
telling
Barberena
me
ever
that
throws in a fight.
that 3 rounds dispersing those strikes in comparison to absorbing them all in 1. You don't think that is more impressive?
I'm impressed that he absorbed 150 strikes from a guy who was retired. I'm supposed to be impressed that he.
Oh my God.
I can do that too. I can do that too.
I guess when you just start, I guess when you just start watching MMA, I guess when you just start watching MMA in 2017, you have these opinions.
No,
Nick
but seriously,
Diaz
why am I
is one of
supposed
the
to be
greatest
impressed?
of all
Why
time?
is that supposed to impress me? Why is that a good
Because
thing?
he had good defense. Because he wasn't
No,
taking the shots.
that landed on him.
No,
It
he wasn't
landed
taking the
50
shots clean.
times.
He was able to take those shots because he was slipping and moving and covering up, and that's why they didn't land clean, and that's why his shot did land clean.
All right.
Listen,
All right.
Bryan Barberena absolutely sucks so bad. He doesn't even try. He doesn't
I get
throw
it.
volume. he barely won. He lost to Jason Witt. What do you think Robbie Lawler does to Jason fucking Witt?
I don't know. Let's match.
Robbie Lawler could win this fight with wrestling.
Dan,
Robbie Lawler doesn't need to
stop.
throw a punch. He
Dan,
could just take him
stop.
down for 3 rounds. He could take him down every.
You know what? I'm picking Bryan Barberena now. Don't put me in that corner. I'm picking Bryan Barberena.
Good. You're
not Triple P certified.
And you'll be
Never put the little doggy in a corner.
I can't wait for this fight. I can't wait for this fight. This will be so fun. I'm glad this happened.
Okay. So we got only 2 totally certified picks this week. We got
I'll bet on this. I'll bet on this, Dan. I'll bet on this. I'll shave my hair into a mohawk if Bryan Barberena wins.
We'll do it. Alex, you and I, should we bet on the
mohawk?
How's Luke always on the outside of these bets?
Well, how about this? If Bryan Barberena loses, you got to paint your fingernails like he does.
No, I don't do that. I don't do that.
For a whole week.
No, you got to do a mohawk.
Really
you got to do a mohawk.
Me,
it's a mohawk bet. That's it. It's a mohawk bet.
No, I can't do that.
Why can't you? It'll grow back. Do a little buzz cut
in
the summer.
I've already had a mohawk in my life, right? I don't need to do that again. Alex, if you're a mohawk virgin, you got to do that.
Wait, you got a mohawk? We need pictures of that for the Patreon.
Dude, it was in college. Remember Rich shaved? Whatever. This is going back.
I don't remember that. How don't I remember that?
I'll show you pictures. Anyway. Are we going to the Patreon?
It's been an hour. We got to get to the Patreon, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about on the Patreon. So we will go over there, and, we got so many good fights on the prelims, but Jalen Turner, Ian Gary, Donald Cerrone versus Jim Miller, Andre Muniz, even the lady fights have some decent, excitement to them, I guess. We can get into the Patreon. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you go and tell Santino Defranco that you saw him on the show, so he wants to come back and do the show again. Great guy. I love what he had to say about TJ Brown. Like, I just love that he was like, yeah. I was it's so refreshing, right? Like I love when you hear somebody who's in the space kind of not mince words like that, because everybody's always tripping over their own dick to try to be respectful, and it's like, guys, money's on the line here. We'll be respectful at the autograph signings, okay?
And everybody gets mad at us for.
We ain't respectful at the fucking. We'll be respectful.
Everybody gets mad at us for talking crap on fighters. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta talk a little crap on the fighters. If you put out a shit performance, hey, guess what? If I put out a shit performance and I don't hit my quota, I get fired. Okay? if you have a shit performance, you should potentially get fired. Hey, maybe not the first one. First month you don't hit quota, you don't get fired. Second month, ooh, we're on the rocks, baby. We're on the rocks. So your second bad performance, like, I can't wait to see that girl who beat Kay Hansen fight again, because I am pushing the pedal to the metal on the other fighter 110%, because Kay Hansen's a fraud.
Okay. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. We got to get TJ Brown on an employee performance improvement plan. And
if you lose a split decision, you could stay.
That's generous.
Yeah, I like that. Well, anyway, guys,
you're hitting half of your quota. One judge thought you won.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's move over to the Patreon and break down these prelims. And guys, the Patreon's where we post all of our open bets. If you've been tailing us, you're up. Alex has had a killer month. Last weekend was like the first bad weekend in a long time. So if you're in the Patreon, you just joined, stick it out, because a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. All right, everybody, we're out of here. We'll see you on the Patreon. Thanks again for joining us on the Perfect Parlay Pursuit.